Today, basically, we will be speaking about process scheduling algorithms. We will speak about three of them today, and the rest maybe tomorrow. So, accordingly, we will. Well, before we go to process scheduling algorithm, you must be aware of why basically this scheduling of processes is required, isn't it? Or what is it basically? Okay. So you must be knowing like what is process scheduling. What does it mean? So process scheduling is nothing but scheduling of work processes, which is done to finish the work on time. Okay, so that means if you have a pool of processes, and if we want to execute them, so there has to be certain kind of order. Okay, such that time utilization also is taken care. That means minimum amount of time, the minimum amount of other resources that is being required. All those considerations are to be made. So, on what basis do we take these decisions? Like which process should be given first, which one should be executed first? So, that will follow a certain kind of method. So, that method is basically process scheduling algorithm. Okay. So in this kind of method, what we do is we schedule the process from the ready queue. So initially, the processes will not be directly given to the CPU. They will be aligned somewhere. So where will be the ready queue? It will be in the ready queue. Okay. So here we schedule the process from the ready queue. Then we give it to the CPU. Okay. So that these processes which has been given to the CPU can be executed. Okay. Now, question may be arise right in our mind that where is the ready queue then? The ready queue is nothing but in the main memory that is in the RAM. Okay, so that is basic you can say working of how basically the scheduling of processes takes place. Now, as we have said that scheduling of process is very important because we have to get those process execution done in a very timely way. That means time is a very critical factor. So, based on this, there are various variations of time that has been taken in process scheduling algorithms. Okay. So first is the arrival time. So of a process. So all of these parameters are with respect to a process. Okay. So arrival time means what? Arrival time is the time period at which the process arrives in the ready queue. Okay. So it's the time period when the process has just arrived and they has been put in the ready queue. Completion time is the time that the process actually completed its execution. Okay. So again, I'm saying completion time is the time at which the process actually completed the execution. Burst time is actually the time that was required by a process for CPU execution. Okay, so the difference between burst time and completion time is that you can say it is the practical part where the you can say process took time period, okay, in which the process took to complete its part. So initially it's you can say frame of reference will be from 0 units or 0 seconds. Okay. Burst time however is just a unit of time which will give us the idea of how much time will be required for completing, okay, by a process. That means how by within how much time period will the process finish the CPU execution. Okay, then turnaround time is again the difference of time between the completion time, that means the time that it took to complete, okay, and the and the time at which it arrived. So whenever we are finding turnaround time, we have to take the difference between the completion time and the time of arrival of the process. So that's why turnaround time is equal to completion time minus arrival time. Okay. The next is the waiting time. So what is waiting time? Waiting time is again the difference of time, but difference between whom? It is the difference between the turnaround time. We have already seen how to find, isn't it? The formula turnaround time minus the like sorry in turnaround time it is the difference between completion time and the arrival time. In waiting time it is the difference between the turnaround time and the burst time. Okay, So turnaround time is completion time and arrival time. Waiting time is turnaround time minus the burst time. So these are the you can say very important parameters that we will be using in the scheduling algorithms. Okay. Now we are using scheduling algorithm, but there has to be a purpose, isn't it? There has to be an aim. Otherwise, why are we using them? So the aims or objectives of using the process scheduling algorithm. So first is maximum CPU utilization. So when I say that, what does it mean? It means that the CPU should always be busy. It should not be idle at any point of time. So we have to see that the algorithm that we pick should keep CPU utilization very high. Okay. Then fair allocation of CPU to the processor. So it's not that there are five processes, one process is taking so long that other processes have to wait and wait. Okay, so it's not like that. Okay, so the algorithm should be such that means all the processes are getting equal amount of time interval for utilization. So that's why the fair allocation of CPU is very important. The next is the maximum throughput. So when I say throughput, we already know what does throughput means in general. So here, since we are defining with respect to process, so throughput means how many number of processes have completed their execution in 1 unit time. Okay, so again, I'm saying throughput means what? How many number of processes have completed their execution in 1 unit of time. So let's say if the time unit that I'm taking is, let's say, seconds. So in 1 seconds, let's say if five processes gets executed. Okay, so I can say that the throughput of you can say the algorithm is five. Okay, so higher the throughput is, the better is the algorithm, because the aim is basically that more and more number of algorithms, sorry, processes should be executed. Okay, so that way we have to choose the algorithm. Then minimum turnaround time. So the time taken by a process which was minimum to finish the execution. So that is minimum turnaround time. Waiting time, again, how much time does a process take to be in the ready queue? Okay, so it's a time a process waits in the ready queue. So that time period is your waiting time. Response time. So it is the time period when a process first responded. Okay, when it was loaded in the CPU. Okay, so that first brief period of time when the process was given to the CPU and the process responded, that means it started executing. So that time period is your response time. So the response should be very minimum. Instantly, it should start execute its execution part, isn't it? So that's why these, keeping these points in view, okay, the process scheduling algorithms have to be utilized. So their main aim is this only. Now, when we talk about process scheduling algorithms, there are two kinds. One is non preemptive, and another one is preemptive, isn't it? Non preemptive, we already know. Suppose if a process has started execution, there cannot be a, you can say, interrupt. Okay, it will continue until and unless it has finished its burst time. So it will keep the continuity until and unless it has finished its execution. So these kind of, you can say, process scheduling algorithms are non-preemptive in nature. That means there is no in between. Preemptive algorithms are those where you can say the context switching from one process to another process takes place. It can be for various reasons. It can be because of the higher priority process that has come in. It can be due to interrupts. It can be because the process has been executed with quantum time. So the reasons can be many. But preemptive, there is always a break in the execution. What is executing? Something happened, and then the control goes to some other process, and that process which is executing, it is put in back into the ready queue. Okay, so that context switching basically happens in preemptive process scheduling algorithms. Now, these are some of the examples. So we will not took all the examples. I will just pick those which are in the syllabus. So examples of non-preemptive are first come first serve, shortest job first, and multi-level queue. So these are the examples of non-preemptive, you can say, process scheduling algorithm. When I talk about preemptive process scheduling algorithms, then there are so many. Shortest remaining time first. These are the names, okay? Round robin, priority based, longest remain time first. So these are the examples. So if they ask you in exams that which are the state the example of two preemptive process scheduling algorithms. Accordingly, you can state. So this is the introduction. So is the introduction okay? Is the introduction okay? Okay, so I will move to the next like I'll be starting off with the algorithm then. Okay, so the first algorithm that we need to know is the first come first serve algorithm. So this is a non-preemptive kind of process scheduling algorithm. So how do we solve this? Okay, so I have taken a numerical basically. So first of all, these are the things that you will be making in the examination. Okay, these three part of the table will be given to you. What will be given to you? Process number, arrival time, and burst time. So these are the things which will be given to you in the question paper. So you will be asked basically to implement the execution of the processes which are given to you using first come first serve algorithm. Okay, so let us see how we are going to do this. So first of all, I will be have to I'll have to make the completion time table. Okay, so let me try to. I'll have to make the completion timetable. So if you look here, this table is empty, isn't it? This table is empty, so I have to fulfill this one. Now, how will this be filled? Okay, so first of all, we know that FCFS works based on the priority that which processes come first. Okay, now how will we know that which processes come first? We will look at the arrival time. So if you can look here, zero at zeroth second, I'm say taking as unit to be second at zeroth second, P1 had arrived and it was put in the ready queue. Then at 1 second, P2 came, isn't it? At let's say 5 second, P3 came, and at 6 seconds, P4 came. Okay. Then if I look here, what will this mean? It will mean that 2 seconds is required for P1 to be executed. 2 seconds is required for for P2 to be executed in that way. Now completion time, how will I design? So what I will do is I have to make a chart called the Gantt chart. Okay. Now this Gantt chart is basically a kind of a timeline which will tell me that a process from which point it has started and what is its you can say the final execution time. That means the completion time. Okay, from the Gantt chart I'll be able to know. Now how will I be able to know? So let us just see this very carefully. Okay, because based on the Gantt chart only all these things will we can be able to solve. Okay, so let me zoom, or I think it's okay if I zoom, then the link will be broken. Okay, please maximize your screen. Are you able to see, all of you? The if I lessen the I mean to say for a zooming part, zoom in. Is it okay? Are you being able to see the screen? Okay then. So look here. First, let's say the process P1 arrived where? Arrived at 0 second, right? So in the Gantt chart, first of all, we will put a zero. Okay. Now P1 takes how much amount of burst time to complete? Two. So I will add 2, okay? At 2, what I will do, at 2 seconds, P1 will finish its execution. So from 0 to 2, I have allocated for whom? I have allocated for P1, okay? Now, till 2 seconds, P1 has reserved its slot. Now, next one, when I will go, I will check that at 1 second, who have arrived? P2 have arrived, correct? But P2 cannot come. One is in between and 2. But P2 come in between 0 and 2? No. Why? Because in FCFS, until and unless the process which is executing, okay, has not finished its work, we cannot bring them. Okay. So once P1 is done, P1 is done right at 2 seconds. So from here, I have to start the work of P2. Okay. So P2 takes how much amount of time? Burst time. P2 takes how much amount of time? Again 2 seconds. So I have to, again, two more units will be reserved. That means 2 plus 2 is how much? 4. So 4 will be, up till 4 will be reserved for P2. That means this block from 2 seconds to 4 seconds, P2 will be occupying that slot. Okay. Now, next if I see P3 came. P3 came at what time? Period of time. Now this is little bit like very important. P3 came at, what is the arrival time of P3? 5. But P2 concluded at what time? 4. That means at 4 there was nothing, isn't it? So from 4 to 5, what will happen to the CPU? It will remain idle. Why it will remain idle? Because when we see the table, we have seen that the other process after P2 came at 5 seconds, right? But P2 completed when? 4 seconds. So in between 4 to 5, I could not give anything because at 4 no one came. It was only at 5, right? P3 had come. So for in between 4 to 5, the CPU will remain idle. That means no process could be given. Why? Because no process was available in the ready queue. So hence no process was given, so this part will be idle. Now at 5 second, who arrived? P3, isn't it? So from 5 onwards, okay, how many units will it require for completing its work? 3 units. So I add 5 plus 3 is how much? 8. So up till here, who will be allocated? P3. Okay. Then next is P4. When did P4 arrive? At 6 seconds. So I'm okay. Why? Because 6 is somewhere here only. So this when this was exactly at the back queue, ready queue, I mean to say. Okay, one contestant was already there. So it's okay. The moment this is finished its performance, I can bring that contestant from the backstage. Okay. So P4 will be coming. Okay, and how much time unit will it take? 4. So 8 plus 4 will be how much? This should be
12.
12.
12.
12, sorry. Huh? Yeah. 8 plus 4, it should be 12. So there is an error. Okay, so I've updated. Is it clear? So this is how the Gantt chart will work. Now, one thing you have to remember that the Gantt chart is solved with respect to time. So that's why there is a time and an arrow. That means as we proceed, loading the processes in the CPU, okay, that has to be done with respect to time. So that's why time is there. Now, I have said that at 12 unit of time, that means here at 12, the last part, all the processes got executed. Okay, so this is done. Now from this Gantt chart, I'll be able to solve the table very, very easily. Okay, now let us come to this process P1. Now P1, when did it completed? Okay, let me see the Gantt chart. So I come to Gantt chart and I see when did P1 completed? It completed at 2 seconds. Isn't it? This was the borderline because after that P2 started. So at 2 seconds, P1 completed. So the completion time of P1 will be how much? 2. Then again P2. So when did P2 completed? When do P2 completed?
3.
Sir, 4.
P2 completed. Why 4?
4. It's
In
sir,
the 1 second.
sir,
I
P2
think I
started
made
at 2, then ended at 4.
P2 started at 2,
But
but it
ended at 4.
ended at which second? At 4, isn't it? Okay, so certain errors are there. Okay, because while making this thing, I was okay. Now see P3. So P3 also, when did it completed? P3, when did it completed?
8.
8, isn't it? So I'll put here 8. Then P4 again from the Gantt chart. You see when did it completed? 12. So how much will I put here? 12. Okay. So completion time, how will I know from the Gantt chart? The last ending part of each processes you have to take. 2, 4, then P3 is started from here. So 8 and 12. Okay, so that is the completion time. Now turnaround time, how will I do? Turnaround time, it will be completion time minus the arrival time. Okay, so it'll be between completion time minus the arrival time. Okay, so let us see. 2 minus 0 is 2. Okay, then 4 minus 1 is how much? 3. Then 8 minus 5 is how much? 3. Then 12 minus 6 is how much? 6. Okay. So if you are feeling confused, what I have done, I have written CT minus AT. So CT is what? Completion time, and AT is what? Arrival time. So we just have to subtract these values from the columns like this. Okay. This is the completion time CT, and this is the AT. So 2 minus 0 like that. 4 minus 1 like that. We are getting the value. The next I have to solve for waiting time. So waiting time formula also I've already given, and I already explained what is waiting time, isn't it? So waiting time is what? Difference between turnaround time minus the burst time. So what is turnaround time? This is the turnaround time that I already computed. And what is the burst time? This is the burst time. Okay, so if anyone has problem, I already wrote TAT minus BT. TAT is turnaround time and BT is the burst time. So turnaround time is what? 2 minus 2. So how much? 0. Then 3 minus 2 is how much? 1. Then 3 minus 3 is how much? 0. And then at last is this one. What is it called? 6 minus 4 is how much? 2. Okay. So that is what we have to write for the waiting time. Now, for in case of you can say non-preemption, okay, algorithms, for non-preemption the response time is will be same as waiting time only. So we can directly copy paste the results here. For preemption algorithms we will see that it is different. So there basically we have to do the calculation. Okay, so whatever we have found in the waiting time, that can be copy pasted in the response time. Okay, so now when they might ask you that find the average turnaround time also. So how will I find the average turnaround time? These are my values of you can say turnaround time, isn't it? So whenever we are finding average, what we do, we add all the values divided by number of observations. So here it'll be 2 plus 3 plus 3 plus 6 divided by number of processes. So how many processes we have? 4. So I add all this, I get 14 divided by 4. So I get 3.5 units. Similarly, someone may ask you find the average waiting time. So how will I do? I'll add all these values divided by 4 number of processes. So I get 3 by 4 units, and that is 0.75 units. So this is how basically the first come first serve algorithm works. So is it clear so far? The working the Gantt chart. Please type in the comment section.
Sir, for time we need to use units rather than seconds, right?
Yeah, generally it's in seconds, but like if sometimes I've seen in the question paper, 1 year they wrote like milliseconds. Okay, so accordingly I just put it like as units. But when you get the, I mean to say question paper, you just check there in which unit they have expressed. Okay,
Okay,
so if
sir.
they write seconds, then you can write seconds. Okay,
Okay, sir.
I think others are also fine. Okay, then. So next algorithm is again a non-preemption algorithm. So this is called the shortest job first. Okay. So we are having, let's say, this information to us, and we have to solve the this you can say scheduling of processes based on shortest job first algorithm. Okay, so from the name itself, how will it this work? So according to this algorithm, process which has the shortest execution time or shortest burst time, that process shall be given to CPU. Okay, so again I'm saying how does this work? It works basically on the concept that the process which is having the shortest burst time, that particular process will be given to CPU for execution. So now when I look here, this is my arrival time. That means again I'm saying arrival time is the time when the process has you can say been loaded into the ready queue. Okay, so it's like we are making a kind of a arrangement in a queue structure. Okay, burst time is actually the time that a process basically takes for execution. Okay, so let us see how we are going to do this. So accordingly, let us see first in 0 seconds. Did any process came in the 0 second? Arrivals time is starting from what? 1, then 2, and then what? 4. So in 0 seconds, I don't have anything. Okay, in 0 seconds, do I have anything? I don't have anything. Okay, so what will happen is from 1 I'm having, right? P1 and P3 have come, but 0 second I don't have. 0 to 1, nothing is there. So 0 to 1, the CPU will remain what? Idle. Okay, so one more thing I've forgotten is this. It has to be plotted against okay, so that updation I've done. So from 0 to 1, since there is no arrival of process, okay, in between 0 to 1, so CPU will remain idle. So that's done. Now the process has arrived at 1 second. Okay, so at 1 second we got P1, and at 1 second we got what? P3. So they have entered into the ready queue. So from ready queue we have to give to the CPU for execution. Now I will have to take the decision that which process has the shortest burst time. Okay, so P1 P3 both are competing, but who will be given to the CPU? I will decide which process has the minimum burst time. So which one has the minimum burst time? P1 is 3 and P3 is 2. So definitely P3 has the minimum burst time because its burst time is the least, isn't it, compared to P1? So P3 will be given. So how much unit will it require? 2 units. So 1 plus 2 is how much? 3. So this part will be occupied by P3. Okay, so P3 has done its work. It will be now released from the, you can say, CPU. Okay, now next we will see that who was there in the ready queue at 1 second only. Was there in the ready queue at 1 second only? P1 was there in the ready queue, isn't it? And its burst time was how much? 3. So P1 will be loaded into the CPU from the ready queue, and then it will need how much unit of time for execution? 3 units. So it will be 3 plus 3 will be how much? 6. So this part will be reserved for P1. Okay, so P1 P3 are done. Now P2 came at 2 seconds. So P2 came when P3 was executing somewhere here. So it is there in the ready queue. Okay, then P4 came at how much second? 4 seconds. So somewhere here it is there. Now it will, we have to check between P2 and who? P4. Okay, now P2 and P4 they have the same burst time. Now I'm saying that P2 and P4 they have the same burst time, but the concept says that the one which is having the minimum burst time, that has to be given the priority. Okay, so what do we do in this case if the burst time is same? In this case, if the burst time is same, then we have to look at the arrival time. That means the process which has come, uh, you can say, earlier. Okay, the process which has come earlier, that process will be selected. So if we look here, this burst time is 4, but when did it come? At 2 units of time. That means somewhere here it has come, isn't it? And when did P4 came? It came at 4 seconds, so it was very late. So who had come first? P2. So accordingly P2 will be given the allocation. So P2 needs how much amount of burst time? 4. So 6 plus 4 is how much? 10. So 10 will be here. So this will be reserved for P2. Then last who is left? P4 is left. So its burst time is also same. So 10 plus 4 is how much? 14. So entire thing will be given to P4. And this is how the Gantt chart will be reflecting. Now what we have done is here we have taken example like of various kinds. Like if it is not arriving at 0, then I said it's idle. If suppose we have same burst time, then how will we give the priority, isn't it? So basically for these kind of situations we should be able to tackle. Because easier ones, it's okay if processes come 0, if everything is ideal, no, the 1 2 3 4 like that, then we can select very easily. But what if certain situation like this comes up? So you should be able to tackle such kind of situations as well. Now I'm going to fill the completion table. Okay, so how will I fill the completion table? I already said that we have to consult the Gantt chart. Okay, so first of all I'll fill for P1. So when did P1 got over? So let me come to Gantt chart. So P1 got over at 6, so I will put here 6. Okay, then next is P2. When did P2 got over? So I will check again P2. So P2 got over at 10. Then when did P3 got over? P3 got over at 3. So it's 3 here. When did P4 got over? So let me check the Gantt chart. It got over at 14. So in place of P4, what I'll put 14. So this basically are the values which gives me the completion time of each processes which are there. Then I'll find the turnaround time. So again, I've already given the formula also how to find completion time minus the arrival time. So how will I find completion time? 6 minus 1 is how much? 5. Then 10 minus 2 is how much? 8. It's very easy. It's turnaround time minus the burst time. So this is my turnaround time and this is my burst time. So it'll be, how will I do it? It's very easy. 5 minus 3, 2. 8 minus 4, 4. 2 minus 2, 0. And then 10 minus 4 is how much? 6. So this basically gives me the waiting time. Then what about response time? As we said that it's a non-preemption algorithm. So whatever is the waiting time that has to be same. So I'll just copy paste this one here. Okay, so I've filled up the table. Now what I have to find? Average turnaround time and average waiting time. So how will I find? So this is my turnaround time. So if I have to find the average of this one, what I will do, I'll add all the values 5 plus 8 plus 2 plus 10. So I've added that divided by the number of observations. So how many observations are there? 4. So I put 4. Then I added, I calculated, and I found 6.25 of units. Okay. Then similarly, if I have to find the waiting time or average of waiting time, so same concept I'll use. I'll add all of them divided by number of observations. So how many were there? 4. So divided by 4. So ultimately I compute and I'll get this many number of units. Okay. So any questions on shortest job first? Okay. Others? Okay. Very good. Then next, we will be moving. So for today, this will be the last algorithm for today because round robin, I'm yet to prepare the notes. I know how it works, but like this way, I have not prepared. Okay. So this is shortest job first, but with preemption. Okay, that was also shortest job first, but with no preemption. Okay. So how do we do this? Is let us see. So this is also called shortest remaining time first. Okay. So let me put, because everything we are doing with respect to time. Okay. So let us start. How do we do this? First of all, we have to make the Gantt chart. So while making the Gantt chart, we have to see one thing here is the arrival part. Okay. So whenever there will be switching from one process to another, the switching will basically take place the one which has arrived but with respect to the burst time. That means the process which has the least burst time that will be compared. Okay, but arrival time takes a plays a very critical role here in solving the question. So let us see. Initially, P1 arrives. Okay, so definitely who will arrive here? We already have seen that P1 will be arriving because it is arriving at 0 seconds. Okay, no other processes had arrived. Okay, so initially P1 arrives, it should execute for only 1 second because CPU cannot remain idle. That time all these were hidden. P2, P3, P4 were not there only. at that point who was there? Only P1 had come. Okay, so we had loaded P1 into the ready queue. Then we have seen that no process was there. So let P1 go and execute. Okay, so its burst time was how much? 5. So from 0 to 1, we have allocated to whom? P1. Okay, now after some time, at 1 second, who has come? After 1 second, who has come? P2 has come. And then its burst time is how much? 3. So I'll compare now the burst time between P1 and P2. So I see that P2 has lesser amount of burst time, right? So what I will do is I will bring back P1 from the CPU, put it back into the ready queue, and P2, which was there in the ready queue, who had arrived at 1 second, that will be given to the CPU for execution. Okay, so how long will it execute? This I mean to say P2, it will be executing for uh, what is the unit? 3 units, right? So okay, it's same thing only. So I have gone like I have divided. So 1 plus 3 should be how much? 1 plus 3 should be 4. So this entire thing is, okay, this I should not have given like this. So this entire thing is reserved for whom? It is reserved for P2. Okay, let me merge this. Okay, so this entire thing will be P2. Even this also. Okay, this line please avoid. Okay, so this entire thing will be P2. Okay, so while making probably I have. Okay, now look here. Once again, I'm saying, first of all, what happened? P1 came at 0th second. Okay, that time no other had come because we have seen arrival time is at 0. So at 0 only this was available. At 1 second only some other process came. So at 0 second only P1 was there in the ready queue and it was given to CPU. It executed for some time. That means let's say it executed started at execution from 0 to 1. Then at 1 second, P2 came in the ready queue. Now what happened is a comparison was done that P1 was 5 and P2 was 3. So definitely P2's burst time was much lesser than P1. So what happened? P1 was brought back to the ready queue. But one thing we have to note that when P1 was brought back, 1 unit of time P1 had already executed. So now when P1 was brought back to the ready queue, its burst time is no longer 5. Its burst time is how much now? 4. Why it has changed to 4? Because in between 0 to 1 for 1 unit, P1 has already executed. That's why it's changed. Now P2, when coming to P2, P2 will start its execution from 1 because it has come from 1 and its burst time is smaller. So it will be doing 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, up till 4. Okay, but mind here at 2 second, some process, other process came. Which process came? P3 came, isn't it? So what we will do is at 2 second when P3 came, okay, what will happen? We will stop here at 2 second for P2. We will bring it back to ready queue. Then we will compare the burst time of P2 and the burst time of P3. But P2's burst time is how much? P2's burst time is how much? For 1 unit, it's already like it, what you can say, executed. So its burst time is how much now? 2. So I will be comparing the burst time of P2, which is 2 second, with burst time of P3, which is 4 second. So I see that P2 is still smaller. So P2 will be given complete like privilege, you can say. Okay. So that is, you can say, given the execution. So for 3 seconds, it will execute. 1 plus 3 is how much? 4. So P2 has executed. P2 is now out of the system. Its job is done now. Okay, so let us take that its role is over. Okay, now next is who comes, who was there in the ready queue now, who are the ones who are there in the ready queue? P3 is there. P3 is how much? 4 burst time, correct? And how much, when did it come? At 2 seconds. P4 came, P4 came when? At 4 seconds. That means at this point, P4 has come, right? But its burst time is how much? 1. So now in the ready queue, we have three processes P1, P3, and P4. P1's burst time is how much? 4. P3's burst time is how much? 4. And P4's burst time is how much? 1. Correct? So now in this instant of time, who will be given the privilege for execution? P1, P3 or P4? Definitely it's P4 because his burst time is 1. So in between 4 to 5, P4 will be given for execution. So once P4 is done, this also will go away. So I can say that P4's work is also done. So it has said goodbye. Now it is a competition between P1 and P3. Okay. So when I see P1's burst time is 4 and P3's burst time is also 4, then in that case, how we are going to make a decision? Okay, so again here we will use the same concept. That means what concept I will use? I will check the arrival time, who has come. So I will see that P1 had come first, isn't it, at 0th second. So P1 will be given. So how much will be its execution? It will execute for 4 unit of time. So it will be 5 plus 4. So how much is it? 9. So after it is done, P1 also will finish its work. So this one is done, and then finally who will be left? P3 will be left. So P3 will take 4 unit of time. So 9 plus 4 is how much? 30. So this is how the Gantt chart is being prepared. So here basically it is little bit tricky in the sense that you have to check first the arrival time. Then second thing you have to see is while the process, any process is executing, has any other process arrived, okay, while execution. Okay, so you have to cross check with the arrival time. If it has arrived, then what you have to do is you have to compare with the burst time of the current process that is executing. If the burst time of the current process which is executing is more, then that process has to be preempted and it has to be put into the ready queue, and the one which has lesser burst time has to be brought and to the CPU for execution. But in case if the burst time of the one which has arrived is more than the one which is executing, then we will let it to continue. Okay, so arrival time plays a very crucial factor here. Then after that, I have to find these things. So turnaround time, same thing, same formula. It'll be completion time minus the arrival time. So 9 minus 0, 9. 4 minus 1, 3. 13 minus 2, 11. And 5 minus 4 is 1. Okay, then waiting time also. I have given the formula turnaround time minus burst time. So it will be what? 9 minus 5 is 4. 3 minus 3 is 0. Then 11 minus 4 is 7. 1 minus 1 is 0. That is how. Okay, now response time. So this part we did not see in the non-preemption, because we said that the response time and the waiting time in case of non-preemption algorithms will be the same, but this is the case of preemption. So how we are going to tackle that? That is the question. So this is the formula. What is the formula? Response time is the time at which the process got the CPU first minus the arrival time. So when did it got the CPU first? Let's see. See, let us come to P1. Okay, let us come to P1. So P1, when did it got the CPU first? When did it got P1 CPU first? We have to take the initial value always, 0, right? So for P1, the first from the Gantt chart is 0. I have to subtract 0 with what? Arrival time of P1. So what is arrival time of P1? 0. So 0 minus 0 will give me how much? 0. Then P2. Again, I have to go to P2 and I have to check when did P2 arrived in the CPU. So that Gantt chart will tell me. So this is for P2. When did it arrive? At 1. And what is the arrival time of P2? So I'll go to P2. 1 minus 1 is how much? 0. So I'll be putting here 0. Then similarly, I'll go for P3. So let me go to P3. P3 arrived here. There was no P3 here. So P3. So P3, when did it arrive initially? Here, right? So how much, when did it arrive? At 9? Sorry, what is it saying? The time at which the process got the first CPU. Yes, when did it got the first CPU? P3 at 9. And when did it arrive? At 2. So 9 minus 2 is how much? 7. Okay, then at last is P4. So when did P4 got the CPU first? At 4. So I'll subtract with the arrival time. So 4 minus 4 is how much? 0. Okay, so that way I will do. Then I have to find the average turnaround time. So average turnaround time, how will I find? I already told you. divided by the total number of processes. So this divided by 4. So I get 24 by 4, which is equal to 6 unit of time. Then similarly, what is the waiting time? Average waiting time, same thing again. I'll be adding all of them. So I added all of them divided by the total number of processes, and finally I could compute the average waiting time. So tomorrow I will be doing round robin. I have not completed. Okay, so I'll be doing tomorrow round robin, then multi-level scheduling. Okay, so these are the things which you need to know for process scheduling algorithm. So I have kept it very much numeric. I mean to say centric, because main thing is, if numericals you can do, then you will be able to solve any problem. Okay, so I have made it very practical. So any questions you can post it. Yes, for 5 marks. Did you understand? Okay, very good. What about the others in the class? Everyone are there. What about others in the class? Okay, very good. So what should I do? Should I give these materials today or tomorrow after finishing round robin? I'll give. What do you suggest? You all
Sir,
say, you right?
sir,
What do you
tomorrow,
suggest?
tomorrow is better. After
Tomorrow
like,
after finishing all, no?
yes, sir.
Okay, I can post it because I think you want to cross check. Okay, okay, then no problem.